Thank you, sir. We'll just wait for the other panelists as well.
Sure.
Till then, just sir, allow us five odd minutes, sir.
No problem, no problem, no problem.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Nikhil? Hey, good afternoon, Aditi. Afternoon, Manindita.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frazier Martins. I'm the host for this event.
Hey Fraser, this is Jagdish.
Hello, Jagdish.
Afternoon, this is Aditya.
Hi, Frazier, Garima here from
Hello,
Microsoft.
Garima. Thank you, everyone, for joining ahead of time. Hello, Aditya.
Hi.
It's waiting for a few other panelists to join in, and I think we should be good to go on schedule
Hi.
at around 3 o'clock here.
Hi, Jayant here.
Hello, Jayant.
Garima, would you want to just maybe do a quick check with Mr. Mitra, as he had not joined in for the dry run, the ice breaking session before, to just see clarity on the questions he's answering till the time everybody's joining in?
Sure. Maybe let me just pull the
Sure.
Excel sheet that we discussed yesterday.
Sure.
Hi, Jagdish. I think we have not interacted before, but I know my team has been working closely with you, Alok, and also we are all colleagues. So, anyways, post this roundtable, I will probably send an email with the introduction.
Thank you, Garima. I have a brief idea about I have a fairly decent idea about the questions.
Okay.
But if there's stuff that you guys discussed and you want me to be aware of, more than happy.
Sure. So the three questions that you have said okay earlier, Jagdish, those are the questions that we will discuss with you.
Perfect. And I'm assuming the context is primarily about us using those as an enterprise, right? What does TechM as an enterprise do to be able to address that rather than our portfolio to our customers?
Both. If you
Both.
can give the flavor of both, that would be great.
Absolutely. And you would, from a strategy and growth guy, if there is anything to tell what we can do for customers, I won't be shy.
Sure.
Hi Garima. Hi Jagdish. Hi Jagdish, long time.
Hi, who's this? I missed it. Vikas, is it?
Yeah, Vikas.
Hey, Vikas, how are you?
I am good. I am good.
Good to see you, or good to catch up with you.
Yes,
Hi, Vikas. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. Thank you. Hope you're doing as well.
Good,
Very well.
good, Vikas.
Hello, Prateek. Can you hear us? Can you see us?
Yeah, I can. Hafiz, yeah.
Hi.
Where do we start up, Fraser?
The scheduled start is 3 o'clock, but we're still waiting for another two panelists, I think, to join us. Sachin and Rituparna.
Okay.
They're just joining in another 2 minutes. So.
Garima, thank you for the logo.
Welcome.
So Sachin and Mr. Rituparna is just joining in. I think in the interest of time, we'll just start. Prashant, can we please start the recording, and can you just give us a heads up when we're starting the recording? Fraser, over to you once the recording is started.
Thank you.
Prashant, would you start the recording, please?
All right. Thank you, Prashant. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining today's virtual boardroom session. My name is Fraser Martins, and I'm your host for today. Leveraging cloud solutions entities to scale business process faster enables developers and operators more flexibility to run as a service and ultimately improves end user experience. With this agenda, business leaders from all functions in IT and ITES industry are collectively building an agile business by focusing on SaaSification to drive innovation and adapt to changing economic models. With this context, Dun & Bradstreet, in collaboration with Microsoft, is pleased to host this virtual boardroom discussion titled SaaSification, Building an Agile IT Enterprise. This roundtable would focus on the following points of discussions: need to create an agile enterprise to adapt to ever-changing economic models, trends in app modernization and IP SaaSification, organizational structure and capabilities towards approaches for legacy modernization, benefits and opportunities of software as a service and multi-cloud, impact and challenges of agile transformation across various business divisions, and key business considerations towards future journey to SaaSification and app modernization. Now let's take a quick look at the flow of today's session. Please refer to the agenda displayed on your screens right now. A promising agenda with an eminent lineup of speakers. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and thank everyone for being a part of this virtual boardroom session today. To kickstart today's session, I'd like to invite Ms. Garima Khadiwala, Director Sales, IT Enterprise, Microsoft India, to set the overview and discuss ITES industry trends. Over to you, Ms. Khadiwala.
Thank you so much, Fraser. Let me just share my slides. Okay, just want to check if you can see the slides.
Yes, you might want to go into presentation mode. Yes, now we can see.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, everyone. I think thank you, Fraser, for setting the context. I think we will be spending our next 90 minutes on a very relevant topic when it comes to IT, ITS, not only for what we do internally for the ITS as an enterprise, but also what you all are doing for your customers as well. I think a lot of brainstorming debate that we have seen over the last couple of years have been around the employee experience, about hybrid work. But this niche topic around IP SaaSification and application modernization is what we believe at Microsoft needs more debate, needs more brainstorming, and we also need to learn from each other's best practices, what is the approach each of the enterprises following up. So with that intent, we would like to thank DNB as well, who has partnered with Microsoft to bring this particular topic for discussion today. I will move to a few of the slides just to set the context before I hand it over to my colleague Aditi, who leads the ISV partner ecosystem for Microsoft. We all know and I think this is, I would be again saying a cliche when we say that the world is moving towards the digital space. We all know that. But what changed in last couple of years, especially due to pandemic? I think we all have reimagined the way we are engaging and communicating, not just to our customers, but also to our employees, as well as to our partners. And we have seen, especially at Microsoft, we have worked with few of the leading enterprises and how they have built an innovation in the applications that they have built working in a hybrid environment. And that's why I think digital transformation is no longer for future. It is already there. We all have adopted it, and we have brought many new innovations to the way we are interacting with our ecosystem, both including customers, partners, and employees. And when we look at ITS, we all represent ITS, you being part of ITS organization, and I represent the team that works with all of you at Microsoft. And I don't think that a trend at ITS can be defined in silo of the other industries. And that is a unique thing about ITS, because it is not always for us, you as a customer, but what is very important for us is your customers who are from different industries. Because when you go out and develop offerings for your customers, they are from various industries. So I would like to take few examples of how the innovation and how app modernization has happened with few of the global customers that we have worked over last a couple of years. If I have to take in healthcare, it would be Walgreens Pharmacy. The way they wanted to develop an app within, say, 30 days, so that the customers can get the response to their queries regarding COVID. And they have gone ahead with the app modernization of what they were earlier working and how they got everything on mobile. Similarly, if you look into financial services, again, a live case with HSBC, where HSBC wanted an app where customers can actually make digital payments through their smartphones. Again, developed with a very short period of time. Manufacturing, another example from Toyota, how during the purchase of the car, how Toyota ensured that all after-sales services have been taken care and is being informed to the customer digitally at the time of purchase. Retail, when we look at retail, it is again another retailer who wanted machine learning to be imbibed in the app, so that right recommendations for customer who is on the app can be provided. Again, a quick turnaround. When we'll move into a slightly different area, government, this is with California government, when we worked with them for bringing an app for their citizens and how they can actually get all the services right at their fingertips. So these are a few of the examples. My colleague Aditi will anyways be taking you through all of that in detail, not just for industry, but also through various functions. But if I have to come back on the app modernization and IP certification and few of the third-party analysis that has been done in this area, as per a Gartner research, 90% of existing applications will be in use. And obviously, we all know that if we want to continue using 90% of the existing applications, it cannot be in the current format if they are no longer modernized, because the profile of the people who will be using those applications is completely different. We have a lot of millennials who have come in the workforce. They are used to experience of Uber. They are used to experience of Netflix. They don't like to see blue screens any longer. They need that personalization for their applications, and that calls for the need for application modernization for all your enterprises. We also, another research done by IDC that says that 90% of all production apps will be cloud native by 2025. I think we all agree with the kind of reliability and security that we are looking at. The world is moving towards cloud native. And the same research also says that 70% of new enterprise application will leverage low-code technology by 2025. We are hearing so much about low-code, no-code, and how you can actually empower the business users to develop their own applications. And that is where the world is moving. The fourth trend and the fourth macro trend, I would say, which is as per the research by Forrester, says that 79% of organizations that claim to do DevOps are already leveraging the cloud, especially in the current environment where we know that hybrid work is going to continue. How you are leveraging the agile development and the DevOps to initiate the time to accelerate the time to market. With that, if I have to summarize that what are the key trends that we all will be facing? It is obviously moving to public cloud. I don't think it's a no-brainer that everybody will be moving to public cloud. Shorten time to market. This is going to be the competitive edge. We all know, and when we talk to C-level executives, they all talk about operating margins pressure. And one of the area that can actually impact your bottom line is how quickly you can market what your customers want, and shorten time to market will be key to that. Enable remote development, both globally when we look into the global organization as well as coming back to the hybrid work. How can you make your development team collaborate with each other in a hybrid environment? How can you democratize technology development by bringing in low code, no code? Technology development or coding can no longer be limited only to a set of very techy developers. You need to give that to the business user. Harness rapidly growing data volumes by bringing in more data insight into all your applications so that you can increase the consumption and users go in the application for the insight that they are getting with the data that they enter in. Infuse intelligence, AI, ML, we all know about it, and prioritize reliability in terms of the agile development that we are talking and the security that we are looking at. So with that, I think we have talked about few trends. I'm very excited to moderate the panel that will be followed now, and we are very excited to hear your point of view in terms of how you are approaching this topic of application modernization and IP SaaSification. I will hand it over to Aditi to probably share a little bit more in detail about IP SaaSification.
Okay, thank you, Garima. Let me also share my screen so it's visible for everybody. Let me know when you can see this, okay?
Yeah, we can see the screen, Aditi.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Garima. Thank you for inviting me to this very interesting discussion with our customers and partners. Most of the people on the panel are also partners to Microsoft. What I wanted to talk to you guys today about was around why SaaSification and the trends we are seeing in SaaSification and the considerations we should think about as a technology solutions industry in terms of taking SaaS to the next level, especially making India the SaaS economy for the world. There are plenty of initiatives that are running across industry bodies, across government initiatives to really give this whole SaaS ecosystem a boost, and might be a good idea to sort of go through why. So let me start with a quick narrative of a personal experience that we went through where I was involved. My role in Microsoft is working with product development companies. We call them ISVs, independent software vendors, and making sure that these ISVs have the right kind of technology platforms to build their products and then the right kind of vehicles or mechanisms to take their solutions to market, which means take these solutions to our customers across verticals. Recently, Microsoft launched a huge product with one of our very esteemed customer. That product was like an aggregation of various consumer services coming together. And the product roadmap for that development was a couple of years. And of course, there was the need to move to the market or need to bring that solution to the market really soon. But at the same time, every development takes time. So I was brought into the loop to figure out what is it that we can do to accelerate the time to market. And that was precisely the phrase that was used. What can Microsoft do to accelerate the time to market for the product that we are trying to build and reduce the timelines from the 3-4 years that they had in mind to literally couple of months. So we sat with the team and we walked the CEO of the organization through these kind of solutions that our partners have built. And within 3 months from them, we had the first version of the product go live, because all of the components that we identified were actually built out using some of our ISV solutions as SaaS. So that is how we've really been able to, on one side, help the customer faster time to market, but also given a boost to the ISV ecosystem who are really modernizing their products and so on and so forth. And this is not a trend we see in a single industry. If you just look at what is around us, right? Every industry is looking at how to transform their core business. You're looking at, somebody in the IoT space, figuring out how to really make sense of all the data that is coming via sensors. Now think about somebody building that out and building this out multiple times for every manufacturing customer who has this need, right? The amount of time that we'll spend in writing that out versus leveraging somebody who's already built it and learned from other experiences from others. Think about experiences in government. We're talking about smart government, smart governance, smart bridges, smart water. How do we think about, how should we as technologists think about creating a single sort of a solution that learns from various implementations, makes itself better, and makes it available to our customers? So across each vertical that we're engaged with, from FSI, which has been the front runner for adoption of SaaS solutions, to government, where we see a lot of innovation and hunger to move towards innovative solutions on the cloud. Across the spectrum, we're seeing a change. Not just the core business, we're also seeing a transformation across functions, across staff functions, across line functions. HR systems have probably been in the forefront. HR, learning management, knowledge management have been in the forefront of adopting cloud-based solutions as SaaS products that they can make available to their employees. But across marketing technology, across field sales, across customer service, across automating BPO organizations, across finance, across operations, every staff function is seeing that need to innovate themselves, and the need can be fulfilled only via solutions that have learned from their own experiences of other customers. So that's how we're seeing, and these requests come to us almost on a daily basis. Customers asking for a certain kind of a solution. Do we get it bespoke developed, or do we have a COTS product that we can use, and so on and so forth. In line with this, we're also seeing a lot of changing priorities across customers. They want to provide exceptional services. We are seeing disruptors coming into traditional markets and giving something to consumers that has never been thought about before. We need smarter services. As consumers, we expect a certain amount of experience when we're talking to a bank or a retail shop or even the pawn shop on the corner. Our customers want to expand markets much faster. Every product company that I speak to is looking at servicing customers in geographies that we would have never paid attention to before. They're talking about Philippines, they're talking about Indonesia, they're talking about LATAM, they're talking about Africa as emerging markets. They want to really expand faster. Our customers want to go into these markets and get serviced much faster. Of course, they want to increase their revenues and sales, but most importantly, they want to do all of this by lowering their TCO and most importantly, by lowering their financial risks. And financial risk is not just about the dollar that you generate in your top line or bottom line. There are other financial risks involved, such as, are you managing your security well? If you have a security breach, how does that affect the company, not only in terms of its reputation, but also in terms of its revenues? Is a customer taking care of that? All of this adds up to financial risks, which does impact their revenue, does in fact impact their profitability, and also impacts their share value in the industry. So of course, our customer priorities are changing, and therefore we see this cusp of evolution happening across our customers in adoption of SaaS. Now, all of you have been sort of brought up in the technology industry. Before coming to Microsoft, I spent a large amount of time working for Wipro, working with their pre-sales organization. And one of the things I truly believe made the IT industry in India successful is our ability to deeply understand the customer's pain point, go back to the customers and say, you focus on your business, we will focus on your infrastructure management. These were known in those days as TOS deals, total outsourcing deals. They gave rise to ODCs being set up and a whole bunch of very newer models for the IT industry to go service our customers. Today, we're at the cusp to say, hey, beyond the infrastructure management, we will also take care of managing your business applications for you, because we've worked with, I don't know, 100 customers like yourself, gathered a lot of learning, built frameworks, built reusable components that we can create into IPs and make this service available to you and deliver much better results for you. You're seeing some of the statistics on the screen that really point towards this evolution of SaaS that we're talking about, both from a customer's acceptance perspective, as well as the developers or the application solution developers' readiness to build a SaaS company and take it to market. Now, what are the benefits that customers see in adopting a SaaS solution? So there are a couple of things that are really simple to understand, right? The first thing is you deploy a SaaS solution with 75% less time as compared to any other product. The amount of time and energy you would spend in configurations, in inherent benefit to customers is that they have very flexible pricing models, right? So you can payment options really, it's a derivative of the pricing model. Very flexible payment options in the sense we can say that, hey, look, today my business is not doing that well, so I'm not going to pay you X dollars. I'm going to pay you for the reduced capacity that I'm using of your solution. But 3 months down the line, I expect a significant spike. So all the agility of the cloud that we are talking about from an infra perspective, we can bundle that back into the business and say that, look, just as cloud can scale up and down resources, so can our pricing models be built such that we can offer flexible payments to our customers. Customers also benefit from single, billing cycles, single vendors. All of this basically reduces their TCO, and this is actually a study conducted. It reduces the TCO by almost 30%. So from a customer perspective, scalability, innovation, always updated. The people that build this software always use the latest technology. There are also considerations around sustainability and accessibility. There's a whole drive across technology companies and non-technology companies to figure out how do we make our products, solutions, etc., more accessible to people. Therefore, drive a lot more inclusivity in terms of the people, and of course, increase the reach of consumers that we can. And at the same time, how do we move towards a green revolution and create a more sustainable sort of software with the solutions that we build? All of this is something that SaaS can actually give you, because you don't have to think about it as customers. You think about it, our customers don't have to think about it. We think about it as software developers, application developers. Now, this is all the customer side of view, but how does it look from the application developer's point of view? See, a SaaS solution, they don't really, by design, by nature, they don't really run on-prem or on customer tenant. Why? Because we're looking at a customer having their own version of the application that is maintained and managed by somebody, but operated by somebody else. This creates a lot of overheads for both the application developer as well as the customer to manage a most recent version of the product. I remember working with one of my ISV partners, and for every customer that they acquired, they had 3 versions of their install base. So by the time they got to 30 customers, they had 90 versions of their software: dev, staging, prod. And every time they had to do a new release, they had to roll this out to 90 such instances. And the worst part about that is every time you onboarded a new customer, their onboarding cycle increased. Why? Because they hadn't thought through how they want to develop this as a SaaS product versus a regular product. And then we worked through them, and right now they have about 3 instances for each of their applications servicing their entire customers across the board, and their onboarding time with customizations per customer is probably down to 3 to 4 weeks. So obviously it's a different thinking mindset. When you think about a SaaS solution, you're talking about multiple customers and a single application. That simple, a single application can be multi-tenant, can be single tenant, can be deployed across different data centers for geographical and compliance control reasons and whatever. But your process flow and your operations flow, what we typically call as DevSecOps, is so well aligned that you can actually make multiple releases for the SaaS product without affecting the customers, and therefore increasing your own operational efficiency significantly. So let's look at what components from a SaaSification, what components really help people who SaaSify their IPs. So clearly, first one is the faster time to market. Because you're a SaaS company, because you have created your operational model such that you can onboard customers really quick. It is and because there are multiple avenues for you to sell your software, such as marketplaces, etc., your time to market for this product is significantly high. The amount of time that you spend, so we've done this analysis, it takes approximately 2 weeks to convince a customer of the value of your solution. And it takes approximately 4 weeks after that to actually configure and deploy. In between, the cycle can be a week or 6 weeks or 6 months for the commercial cycle, depending on how you've actually thought through your product or deployment mechanisms. For the application developer itself, because you have a subscription-based model, you have consistent revenue streams, and you can also define a certain financial predictability in your business going forward. So it's not like one fine day the customer just gets up and says, hey, I don't want to do this business anymore, don't want the EA. You can make an intervention happen in subscription models when you see things going up and down immediately. I already talked about operational efficiencies. I want to specifically talk about security, because every product company today starts with security first mindset, and that is absolutely necessary to help our customers reduce technical debt, but more importantly for you to reduce technical debt itself. Recently, I was talking to a company that is in product development for the last 25 years. They have built a product, they service companies for in India, in Asia, in Africa for 25 years. And when we started talking about modernizing to the cloud, their chief architect said, look, I cannot touch this product because quite frankly, I don't even know some of the code that has been written. And my technical debt is so high that we can't even think about, all the goodness of the cloud that you're talking about. My only option today is to literally start from ground zero, think about cloud first architectures and build this out grounds up to meet the requirements of the new world that we are getting into. So that is heavy, but once that step is taken, it'll be much easier for them in the long run. So we're working very closely with them. The final thing is, this is something that a lot of our partners who build IPs don't think through. When you're a SaaS company, you're holding data. And of course, you're responsible for the security of the data, for the compliance of that data, for the anonymity of that data per se. But that also means that you have the ability to churn that data and build insights that have never been seen before. A good example is an HR SaaS company. An HR SaaS company holds employee data of, 100 customers that they serve. And these 100 customers have thousands and thousands of employees across different experience levels, across diversity, across skill sets, across education. Now think about somebody coming out with an insights product that talks about the average time that a person spends in the organization, how do they shift, what is the journey of the person been, and so on and so forth. So even while maintaining data integrity and protection, there is possibility that you can build analytics products that can actually become a very new revenue stream for people who think about SaaS. Now, this afternoon, before this conversation, we were having a SaaSification discussion with one of our partners and customers as well. And they said, oh, so it's that simple. We just take the application, move it to the cloud, containerize it, and we are ready to roll. Right? It isn't that simple. That is a typical journey that you would describe for an application migration. But when you're thinking SaaSification from an IP perspective, you have to put your product development mindset, thinking hat. You have to think with a product development mindset, with the right kind of product strategy and so on and so forth. So a couple of things that I think are really relevant when you think about SaaSification. First is market validation. Does your product really sell in the market, or is it just something that you are sort of using as a supplement to deliver lower cost on your services project? Look, I've been while working in Wipro, we developed significant number of reusable frameworks, and we use those as, carrots to the customer to say, hey, we are going to reduce your cost by putting this reusable framework. IP is kind of shared and so on and so forth. That doesn't mean that the product will sell as a standalone in the market. So market validation first. And there are a bunch of other things that are important, such as pricing models. Today, we're going to go down the subscription-based pricing, but subscription-based pricing can have multiple dimensions. For example, I could say, I will service my customer on a node base. Node base is great when you have smaller number of nodes that are going to be churned. But if you have like tens and thousands of customers, is that sustainable? Then you might want to go back and say, hey, okay, I will do bulk pricing. But another customer might come back and say, bulk pricing doesn't work for me. I have only 5 people. So you might say, okay, I'll do a per user per month. So these different kinds of pricing models that are appropriate for your product have not only to be thought about, but they have to be baked into the architecture and development of your product, and most importantly, baked into the billing cycle of your product. Then you think about what is your business strategy? How will you, as a most often than not, product companies will have a sales, marketing, and so on so people to service this kind of product, because most of their revenues will come from there. But when you start thinking about business strategies with a typical services organization, and then you say that, okay, I want to build an IP, your business strategy suddenly becomes super important. Is the services company willing to put a sales engine, a marketing engine, a business head who will carry a target on taking the solution to the market? Supremely important before you even take down the journey of remodeling, re-architecture, and so on and so forth. Your product strategy in terms of features, functionality, what will take to the market, MVPs, and so on and so forth. What is your joint marketing strategy? Will you use marketplaces that are available? Will you partner with the likes of Microsoft to take it to market, and so on and so forth? Of course, patents, trademarks, compete strategy. This is something that most often than not, people don't think about. There are 2 ways to think about it, right? First is, am I going to build a product and open source it? And if I'm going to open source it, then what is my revenue generation model? Second, if I'm not going to open source it, then should I be protecting via patents and trademarks, or should I just have a free run? Third, what is my competition doing that I'm doing? How am I differentiating myself? What is my USP? If I get a 10-second elevator pitch to make, what is that elevator pitch, and how is that going to differentiate me with competition? So all of this thinking will have to go into just the strategy piece of, defining whether an IP is market valid or not, market ready or not. And then we come to the technology bit. So yes, we've talked about cloud native architectures and containerization and, basically moving to cloud first. But have we talked about infra architectures that are required for SaaS IPs? How will you take care of reliability? How will you take care of scalability? Security compliance we talked about. But reliability and scalability is super important for that business to run. You think of SAP today. SAP as a core business system is now SaaSified as SAP RISE. If they don't take care of scalability and reliability, there is risk that a business might sit down for the while that SAP RISE is not able to function. Of course, they've taken care of it.
I want to do a quick time check here.
Yeah, just 30 seconds more and I should be done, Fraser. Finally, we talk about deployment models. So think about not just your multi-tenant or single-tenant deployment models, but how are you going to get from where are you going to procure the products from? How are you going to manage those products? How are you going to deploy from production to from development to production across multiple tenants? All of this thinking will have to go into deployment. And finally, if you don't put an operations and support model into your application build, you'd probably not create a successful SaaS company. my final slide, really, all I'd say is that, look, we've been working with partners significantly for a very long time to build SaaS applications on Azure. These are data reported from partners. So if you're interested in building your IPs out into full-fledged products and taking them to the market, please do reach out to one of your Microsoft representatives, and we'll definitely help out in terms of the entire cycle from build to go to market. Thank you so much, and I'll hand it back to Fraser.
Thank you so much, Aditi. We move now to the most awaited thought-provoking panel discussion on the pertinent topic, SaaSification, building an agile IT enterprise. Let me introduce to you all the speakers joining us on the panel today in no particular order. We have with us Mr. Sachin Chitlange. He's the Vice President, Finance Transformation and Data Analytics at Capgemini Technology Services India Limited. Mr. Abhishek Jain is VP Analytics, Lean Digital Transformation Leader at Genpact. Mr. Jayan Narayanan is Head IT, Servian Global Solutions. Mr. Prateek Ghosh is Vice President, Technology, Transition and PMO First Source. Mr. Rituparna Bakshi is Head Service Quality and OE CLM, Sutherland Healthcare Solutions. Mr. Aditya Sarangapani is Head Cyber Threat Response, WNS. Mr. Vikas Vijayvargiya is Chief Information Officer, Zensar Technologies. And Mr. Jagdish Mitra is Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Growth, Tech Mahindra. The session will be moderated by Ms. Garima Khadiwala, Director Sales IT Enterprise at Microsoft India. I welcome you all once again and request you to please start up your video if you haven't yet, and to avoid possible background disturbances, we request you to please remain on mute and unmute yourself when you are to speak. Let's begin the panel discussion then. Over to you, Ms. Khadiwala.
Thank you, Fraser, again, and again, welcome you all for this interesting panel discussion that we have on IP SaaSification and app modernization. I think enough context has been set in terms of why the need for application modernization. Let me go to Sachin and probably ask you, Sachin, while we are talking about application modernization and all, but in the current era, why is it important for an organization to be an agile enterprise, and how at Capgemini you are actually working towards building an agile enterprise?
So thanks, Garima. I think good question to start with. So I think just to introduce myself, I think I've been leading the business analytics for as part of the finance function, and that's the quite in thing these days. So a small story to share. It during when COVID started, I think in 2018. We being leading the advanced analytics function, we were asked to compare, and being in IT industry, we were asked to compare the crisis with 2008 IT crisis. If you remember, there was a recession in 2008, and we were asked to compare the data and come out with scenarios. Let's say how much time it took for conversion of opportunities, how much cash discount customer would ask to get the receivables back. So I think that is where we realized the importance of data and the agility which we need in systems. And that time the function was advanced analytics. We had just established as a function. Come today, I think we are staring at a big inflation. I think since then we've built a great function in advanced analytics and also modernized our application. I mean, that was a trigger to being agile and start our journey on modernization. But I think the economic models have been changing, and today I think as we stare inflation in Europe, Americas, and we expect IT industry may benefit out of it because looking at the inflation, the clients may ask for. There's no shore today, like you said, no code today. There is no shore. I mean, anybody can work from anywhere, at least in software industry. So again, we've been asked to come out with analytics on how do we see during inflation trend, how do we see the data figuring out how how do we see attrition, how do we see the cost moving up due to inflation, and then predict how should we negotiate with our customers in terms of the charge out rate, in terms of negotiating the contracts, in terms of COLA clauses, for example, cost of living adjustment in the contracts. So that is where I think the industry is moving. I think we need to be agile because we are in a fast changing world. I think the key two drivers I would say is predictability, time to market, and business risk. I think that's the key need why industry is moving towards this agile SaaSification, faster time to market, faster time to predict. Is what I would sum up, and being part of the analytics of data, I think you need to be very agile to adapt to changing scenario and equip business with relevant data to take actions. So I would sum up there. I think, yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, Sachin. I think very well put together. Predictability, bringing more predictability to in the uncertain times is what calls for an agile enterprise. Abhishek, what is your point of view at Genpact? I know you have come up with many new innovations, and my team works very closely with Genpact Transformation Office as well. We know you have come up with Water Cooler app, where how do you collaborate with your colleagues when you are working in a hybrid work. That is one example of bringing an agile enterprise. But from your point of view, why, again, the same question, why it is important to build an agile enterprise?
Sure, Garima. And I was listening to you and Aditi very, very carefully. And I think some of the very valid points that you mentioned, which I pretty much agree with, especially in my current role where I'm leading the transformation services for analytics. I strongly believe that three of the most important reasons why agility is extremely important is number one is speed to outcome. Gone are the days where you can have a linear execution of the product, right? You cannot wait for 3 months or 6 months to finish your product and show to client. It has to be a collaborative exercise at every point of the execution. That I think is the number one point. The second thing is it has to be incremental. I mean, I remember when we started working in our existing organization, we used to get a significant amount of time to finish our product. And there need not be any incremental additions to the product because you sign a SAO or a contract with the client and you deliver exactly like that. But in today's environment where so much is changing on every single day, you have to ensure that your client is asking certain things and you are delivering that on a daily basis, right? Rather than waiting for 3 to 6 months. And third most important point, which is pretty much related to my current role, what I have been observing is that, you don't need to set up a process and then transform it. The transformation has to be a continuous exercise. So when we are transitioning new process, we are giving them a process map or a complete mapping of the transformation exercise from day one. Okay, so while you are understanding the process, while you are learning the tricks of the game, the transformation has to start from day one, which is a very, very unique thing that we are observing. And it's not something which used to happen, say, even 3 years back. So these are the three important reasons that I think are, the reason for bringing agility into the system. But more important than that, we need to, take a step back and understand what needs to change, right? It's okay to say that this has to be achieved, but to achieve this, what needs to be changed in our organizations? I think number one thing is that, there has to be a change in the mindset and the culture of everyone who is working as part of the transformation team or otherwise also. And for that, you have to empower your folks, right? Because they are the ones who come up with the most transformative ideas on a daily basis. Unless we come out of our cubicles and empower them and understand what they are telling, basis their experience with the day-to-day interaction with the client, I think transformation will not happen and agility is a far cry. And the third and a very important fact that I would just like to highlight is that we don't need to appraise our people on a yearly basis now. It has to be an incremental appraisal, right? So somebody who is able to deliver that transformation or able to deliver that agility in the system needs to be given a recognition over and above the rest of the people that you have. And it has to be an ongoing process. So I think if we achieve these three things, we will be able to achieve the top three trends that I just mentioned above. So that's my very crisp take on this, Garima.
Thanks, Abhishek. I think, yes, empowerment to the business user is something which is very critical because they are the one who are actually hearing our customers and their feedback becomes very important, and how we empower them becomes extremely important. Let me go and ask Vikas your point of view on the application modernization, why it is important, and what are the trends and technologies that you are seeing right now when it comes to application modernization.
Thanks, and so valuable inputs shared by you. And then before, you were sharing, Aditi was sharing, and then, we heard also from other panelists as well. See, from my take, application modernization has been there, and it's been there from quite some time. Now, from the last 3 years, or specifically in the last 2 years, the digital transformation has taken a front seat, and digital transformation becomes such a broad term. So, application modernization has become very important. People have built legacy applications built over the years with so much of customizations, no standardization. Everybody has their own processes. Systems are not talking to each other. But such a rampant change happened in the technology. I mean, it is very difficult for people to keep these systems, business processes in a standardized manner. That is where the application modernization will come into the picture, because if we don't do that, I mean, we cannot scale our business. Our business will not be secure. Our the truth of the data from a single source will not happen. And that is where the whole application modernization, application SaaSification is actually coming into the picture. Because if we see that when we do any SaaSification of any applications, or we take them to the native cloud environment, before moving into that direction, we still have to do some prerequisites, right? I mean, we have to standardize the processes. We have to ensure that our vision with the business is aligned as per the technology which we are bringing in. So once we do that, then the whole data integrity, data availability is not a question, because I am at Zensar itself. We have been through a lot of transformation in the last 2 years. And now it has given us so much of scalability, and it has also, in the long run, it definitely saves cost, as you were rightly pointing out in your session, that the whole commercial model has changed. Sachin was sharing as well. The whole view of the entire world towards the SaaS platform has changed completely in the last 3 years. I mean, that is what even the market trends as well say that. So, the security focus has been, so high now, specifically on the SaaS providers, and so this is becoming a complete game changer. And now with ensuring that people are at all over the place, Sachin was sharing that it's a no-show now. So application availability, data availability. At the same time, you don't want to compromise the security. How do we make sure that all of this happens? And that's where the SaaS players are playing a big role, and that will help us. And that is what, and you pointed out in your session as well, that the whole verticalization of the SaaS offerings is coming so big time into the picture, because it's not only just an Oracle or an SFDC or Microsoft Dynamics. I mean, it is how the verticalization the SaaS providers are doing is just immense.
You're very well said, because I think the changing business models as the economy is moving towards outcome-based billing, I think SaaS becomes equally important, pay-as-you-go model, and also security and reliability. So very well put forward points. Aditya, coming to you, at WNS, again, the kind of business you are, it's a very thin margin business, right? But at the same time, the need for digitalization is paramount. And we have been talking to your CTO as well around the entire modernization that my team is working along with them as well. So where do you see app modernization in the context of WNS, both for the internal transformation as well as the outside for your customers, and key trends and technologies that you are working on?
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword for WNS as a company, because we deal with clients at one end who have their own specific requirements. Some, recent clients are, because they are new companies, they've started the journey on the cloud. So our services can typically be on-prem as we were traditionally doing, but it would be better to be on the cloud. So it's easier for us to interact and provide them the services. On the other side, on our own internal environment, all the applications, of course, there is one trend of your normal corporate applications, as you know, are moving increasingly, as an offering only on the cloud. They're no longer on-prem with perpetual licenses. As you alluded to earlier in your discussion, that it is more a pay-as-you-go, pay-per-user licensing subscription model rather than a one-time sale perpetual model. And then maybe you might be eligible for upgrades, but you still have to buy those licenses. So those are the two aspects of it. But from a delivery perspective, yes, margins are thin. How do we ensure that we give the additional value to the customer? Because although you might go strictly by the SOW or the agreement you signed with them, but clients definitely appreciate if you've given the additional value. How are you going to going by, I'm not sure who said, I think Aditi said, if you're going to offer analytics for your HR services based on the data you have on your SaaS platform for that particular client. Now that's an additional value. Yes, you might charge more for it, but at least you have something to offer. I mean, that is how you're going to grow your business, because at some stage you are going to plateau out that the rate of incremental business is not going to be that high. And needless to say, for a listed company, that does not bode well for the shareholders. There's no revenue growth, or revenue growth is almost flat. On the other side, you do have, when you are SaaSifying or even taking over a process, going back to what, sorry, the person from Genpact, sorry, I forgot his name. When you're transforming a process, Abhishek, yeah, sorry, thanks. Yeah. When you're transforming a process, you also need to look at processes, because what happens, and this has been my experience, is sometimes processes have been set and nobody really looks at them. This is the way we do, we will follow that even when you're transforming, whether it's digital or otherwise. An interesting anecdote comes to mind when this is it was in the mid 80s. So at that time is when people started using checks to pay their electricity bills. But the process till that time is you want to pay cash, so you need to show your bill, whoever name is on the bill, and then pay the money. But when you're accepting checks, if you're going to move the process as is, saying that the person whose name the electricity bill is, it should be their account from which the check is issued. Is it a good strategy? I'm not sure. You have a monopoly, so there's nothing much people can do with it. But does it endear it to your customers? Not really, because it's a pain, because you still need to go in. And of course, now you have various modes of online payments, which is enabled by technology. Do you really want to scale up on-prem? I think the most recent example was for which the hosting company got a lot of kudos was Disney Hotstar for the India-Pakistan match. To handle about 13 million concurrent connections with video and audio and other statistics on various levels of bandwidth that you have with the end users. It requires a lot of planning. Although it is, they would have anticipated it, they built the architecture, but scaling up on-prem would be very difficult. I think we've seen when Flipkart started, I think what 8, 9 years ago, when they started their big billion days. The first time they went, their servers were unable to handle that kind of load. It was literally a DDoS, although they did. I myself said that the same order went through twice. Of course, they then came back saying, yes, it's twice, so we'll refund the money. So there was a lot of alternate work, but I think they learned their lesson from that. And from an application online perspective, that is what you need to know. Yes, you might make mistakes, but accept it, ensure how you can do it better.
Great. Thank you, Aditya. Scalability is the key for app modernization. Jagdish, over to you. What are the key drivers that you believe are important for legacy modernization. I know Tech Mahindra is one of our top GSI partners as well for Microsoft, and there are many customers that we have worked in with partnership with Tech Mahindra, where we have helped customers move their legacy applications to cloud together. And as well as we are working very closely with your CIO's office as well to move a lot of internal legacy applications to cloud. So what is your take? What are the key drivers when it comes to legacy application modernization?
Thank you, Garima, and I think a very eclectic panel. So glad to be here to learn from most of them. I think from a legacy modernization perspective, the first discussion that I think we ought to have is really about our ability to understand what is that we are trying to change. What are we trying to do in terms of, the legacy systems, and what is the business expecting out of it? So is there clarity, whether it is internally TechM doing it or TechM and Microsoft or any of our colleagues doing this for our customers? The first job, I think, is to find out what is the end goal. What are we trying to do? Because as you know, modernization is a constantly changing term. What was, in the ERP era was a modernization to ERP, then it was shift to cloud, then there was API, and then there's now completely SaaS or SaaSification, if you may, of the whole modernized infrastructure. So my only the way we approach it as a team, as a partner together, is that there is a few things that one needs to look at. And those three things that one needs to ask for is, as we all are on the digitization journey, is that what are we trying to address? And the business goals of your digitized business. So do you have a vision for your digitized business? What does digitization mean to you? And what would that mean to your business? Once you call that out, and they are primarily in terms of drivers like business fit, business value, and agility. Now, these three, will it change your business drivers, business fit, and agility? Then you have a digitization process. Otherwise, you're just doing it because someone else is doing it, or you need to follow a certain model. So to me, I think those three answers, if you can answer, then that's the first step towards modernization. Then you have various ways of modernization, whether we are doing it through re-platformizing, we are either doing it through refactoring, whether we're re-architecting. You talked about a product example, I think, where someone had no clue as to where the product is. So do we need to rewrite it or rebuild the whole product? So you have to decide which choice or approach one needs to take. And then go on to the choice of the tech partnership that you need to do in order to make sure that it builds it. So to me, I think technology comes almost at the third step, not the first step, of how to look at legacy modernization. And it's never a standstill, right? Especially with this speed at which business and digitization is changing. Maybe almost like every year one needs to relook at what your business and customers and within your organization and internal employees looking at. I heard about the coffee cooler or the water cooler app. And then there are some others that everyone does. We've done something around a seat-based yoga, a face recognition for associates. How do you sort of keep engaging people more and more? Because, frankly speaking, our personal computing or personal compute opportunities or values or expectations increase faster than our business ones. And it's sometimes our personal expectations on what we get from our personal computing needs don't match up to the business requirements. So you got to keep up to it, because they are the same guys who experience personal computing at a very different level. If their shopping behavior, if their buying behavior, if their experience behavior is very different, then businesses got to keep up to that level.
Very well said, Jagdish. And I think what I liked is it's very important that before you embark the journey, you have your objective very clear, that what you want to achieve out of this app modernization, because it is an evolving area, as you mentioned, and the requirements will keep on building up as you move into that. It is not that for next 2 or 3 years, once you have modernized the app, that's it. You need to keep on adding new features to the same app so that it can keep up with the business requirements. So very well said. Let me go to Prateek. Prateek, again, very similar to WNS, the kind of business that you have. Again, a very thin margin business. But I think you are a bit ahead in the entire app modernization journey. You have embarked that with Microsoft already. So where do you see the key drivers for legacy application modernization? Why did you embark that journey probably a little ahead of the rest of your peers?
Hey, thanks, Garima, and thank you, the Dun & Bradstreet team as well, right, for setting up this excellent group for a very interesting conversation. So I think let me take a step back, right? I think around 18 months back at an organizational level, we decided to kind of go ahead and with this whole approach of digital first, digital now, right? I think that's what, as an organizational level, Firstsource is looking at for most of our customers as well as internally to kind of approach digital with open arms, right? I think that's the general mantra within the organization. I'll take a step back, Garima, before talking about the Firstsource journey. I'll talk about why usually companies do IT transformations, right? Because in general, it's not from the goodness of heart, right? It's generally driven by some strategy or something. And one of the things I always feel, right, any modernization or transformation for technology is generally evolution rather a revolution, okay? And what it basically means is that it basically, for me, it kind of comes forth with four critical factors, right? One, I think we all touched upon that, was user experience, right? At the end of the day, user experience for digitally native customers, clients, etc., has now become a differentiator, right? Earlier, it was good to have, now it's need to have, right? That how good, how well a person, and I think somebody gave an example that people are habituated with the Ubers and the Amazons of the world, right? And then when they get something slightly different, it just doesn't cut through that clutter, right? Then the second is cost and risk, right? We all know legacy environments have an inherent cost and there is a risk associated to it. And what most global organizations don't want is a regulatory and a shareholder scrutiny due to an IT risk, be it an application downtime, infrastructure downtime, whatever it is. Third is the millennials point I think somebody raised, right? Where do you get people to develop and code on COBOL today, right? You will not get them, right? How do you get the right workforce on the table, right? And I was reading somewhere, and I think 27% of mainframe developers have retired in the last 3 years, and only 20% of those roles could be backfilled globally, right? And that's the general issue with companies which have a lot of mainframe dependencies. And the last, I think the most critical point which is happening, right? And I'm sure all of us see with our customers as well, the CIO and CTOs now have feet on the table in the decision-making body. Few years back, right, it was the CIO and the CTO were predominantly support functions, whereas now, for most of our clients, they are part of the decision-making process, right? Because technology at a lot of times is defining and driving the strategy for business, right? So I think that has been a major shift where the whole legacy transformation is heading to. Now, the question that what to do, right? And I think that's what hampers a lot of clients, right? Is that do we go for best in class or do we go for fit for purpose, right? Because everybody wants that best in class, that beautiful looking application, right? But will it fit my organization, right? And I'm sure all of us have seen a lot of SaaS applications being taken and then almost what I would say reconfigured to look like a legacy application because people want to look and feel of it. So I think going forward, and this is where we as an organization are thinking as well, that the entire strategy has to be software defined, be it your infrastructure, be it your PaaS, be it your SaaS. Cloud native platform, which is device agnostic, right? So that you kind of give that whole hybrid workforce the ability to work from anywhere and get the same experience. And I think you or Aditi touched upon that, right? The low code versus no code, right? I think that whole journey between configure versus customize, right? Configure has to be the phase where the democratization of coding, right? Where people who don't know the lines of code are able to make certain changes and reduce their time to market. I think these would be the fundamental changes what I see will make this whole transformation and the digitization journey better. So over to you. Thank you.
Great, Prateek. Thank you so much for that. And we will come back to you to hear Firstsource, what approach you had taken at Firstsource. But let me go to Sachin. And Sachin, again, coming back to you, what would be, as per you, the right approach that enterprises can take for IP SaaSification and application modernization?
So yeah, Garima. So I think interesting question, and I think it's very difficult to answer. SaaSification is right, but as Jagdish and other co-panelists said, it's a journey, and a large enterprise like us, with offices in so many countries, and we have grown. Every 3 months we acquire a company. Every 3 years we acquire a large organization. Like iGate or that kind of mammoth acquisition. I think it's very difficult. You can imagine the legacy systems and the processes, and then ask for SaaSification or being agile. It's difficult. But I think, having said that, I think there are different approaches, and we have not followed one single approach. I think I would put it, multiple approaches. I think either rehost is one approach, re-architect, as Pratik was sharing, re-architect, rebuild is another approach, re-collaborate and re-modernize. So I think we have used all the approaches, and one of the simplest example of re-architect was expense reimbursement. I think a lot of organizations use on the cloud expense reimbursement like Concur or some other tool. So that was a first for us because that was the easiest to improve the employee experience on mobile, as well as well integrated with the corporate card and so on. So that part was handled immediately to reduce the TCO, having different application, different countries as we acquired. I think another important aspect is cash. I think order to cash, and there I think every business unit now that is more on a business unit based. Everybody manages their strategic business unit manages their own cash. So there we followed a little different approach. We took approach to have a bolt-on application. So we had a robotic process automation on top of our ERP, automating, churning out the invoices. So we build a little bolt-on approach or agile approach, or you can call I call it re-modernize way of invoicing with having Pega, if is a BPM tool, sits on top of ERP to have nice screens, end user screens, and with the power of robotics, we could churn out our invoices faster to our clients. So we use re-modernize or re-collaborate approach there. And we also used the approach of rebuild. I think, for example, on the supply chain, I think with attrition and the demand for IT skills going so high, we used AI based, we shifted from a traditional manual supply chain based allocation to projects. We changed to AI based application where the skills and the open demands were automatically matched based on AI engine on the cloud platform. To facilitate business with right skills, and then finally I think the power of API. I think that has brought the biggest change. I would say across industry, and I think my co-panelists would agree with me. I think most of the people here have used either modernize their legacy application using API or rebuild or whatever. So I will give the simplest example is our revenue is based on the time entry. Yeah, we are in a service industry software, so every project, a new project is created, people enter time, the revenue is based on time. When people started working from home, I think the best way was we enabled them a chatbot based time entry. So we just had API from our timesheet application linked to Microsoft based chatbot, automatically facilitating people to enter time from Microsoft Teams. Yeah, so that is how we have used the power of API also in other areas. But as per the changes required in the industry, we either use re-modernize, rebuild, SaaSification like Concur or other approaches. So to summarize, I would say there's no one approach which fits all, but I think the organization may approach their needs according to the demands of business and changing models as we evolve. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Sachin. And I think very rightly said that there's no approach. It also depends on which business function are you dealing with, and accordingly you decide the right approach. My question will be to Ritupan, and would like to understand, Ritupan, from you at Sutherland. when you have embarked this journey of application modernization, and again, building on the point that Jagdish mentioned, that every business has a different requirement and we need to keep on building on that requirement. How did you actually approach different divisions of business, and what were the challenges that you encountered in this journey?
Yeah, I think let me, rather than giving the example of Sutherland, because it may be more relevant for the and for the benefit of the audience, to refer to a couple of my experiences related to SaaSification and app modernization in HP and in HGS, if that's fine with you. Let me do that. So I'll give an example of when I was working in HP. Am I audible here? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
So see what we had there, and let me refer to the challenge first before I give you a couple of examples here. See, the challenges is that while it is easy to talk about SaaSification, it's not always, I think we all know, it's not always that simple. And there are challenges which do get encountered. So I'll give an example. What we had, for example, this was for providing the sales quotes to the sales reps. So we had people in all the three regions, which is AMS, APJ, and EMEA, where there was a backend team in GBS based in Chennai that was configuring the codes, creating codes, and these people were the sales reps were providing those codes to the customers, and this was related to the sales of service products, so data center support contracts and other PC and server support contracts, creating those, renewing those support contracts. So it was all being done on-prem, and towards a gradual evolution from a legacy, from a whole bunch of different disparate legacy systems to SaaSification. There was one application where when I was working, this is something which was done, and there was a particular role I had in the whole team that was working on this from our side, and Accenture was the partner who was helping us with the development and integration as a service, kind of a consultant. Now when this SaaS product was developed, it was a CPQ product. While it was developed, the expectation was for this product, which was SFDC based product, to integrate with the existing SAP application, which was there, which was the on-prem application. Now, while this did get done, there were integration challenges. And there were complaints from the sales reps. People started going back to using the old traditional channels of writing emails and asking for codes, because some things were not flowing, data was not connecting, and there were challenges. So this was one thing which I again, as part of the team, we went through till this, all of this got sorted out, settled down, and I'm sure there would have been certain costs related to this when this was done. This was one of the challenges which I did see happening when this was being done, because this was a hybrid solution where the data continued to sit in SAP tables, all the data, but then the CPQ application connected with this database. There was another again legacy SaaSification which was done, where there were it is like when servers were sold. So you, let us say, we sell servers. There is a sales system which is where the servers are being configured and then those are being sold. But once the first year is over and the support contracts have to kick in, all of those sales systems, sales related data has to flow into systems related to service. So the service system is something which was again moved into SAP, while the sales system was in a legacy system which we were calling as Sandy. So while and there was a lot of data fallouts. So ultimately, one thing which had to be done was that first there was a manual workforce
which was essentially, so let us say that there is a whole lot of server storages, networks, PCs which are sold, and when they are sold, all the all the sales related products which are sold, all of them are configured in Sandy. Now, when we are going to a modernized application, when it comes to the service systems, all of that information has to be now manually copied, pasted, and transferred manually to the new system. So because there were a lot of data fallouts happening, so that system was never changed. The only thing which happened is RPA was implemented, but which again relates to the cost a part of the whole process, because now we have, in addition to what was forecast, there are now humans or bots which are doing the manual transfer of data from the from one app to the second app. So all of this that has to be looked at. Another challenge which I think which we also need, and of course we also need to look at the economies. If there is again a system which is hybrid, where the sales reps are using both the traditional systems as well as the traditional channels as well as the new systems, is there really a ROI there that we thought there would be? So that has to be also looked at very carefully. The last challenge I'll probably want to talk about is that when we move from a legacy system to a modernized application, SaaS application, it is very, very critical. I think people have said this earlier in this panel today, that there is a need to re-engineer and reimagine the system, the process. Because again, many of these legacy systems, they work well with old processes, and when the new systems are implemented, the expectation is also more from all the stakeholders, because when we are modernizing, it is not just about technological benefit or optimization from a technical point of view, but the users and the business functions also start. There is an expectation of that there would be some change in life for them as well when things are changing, and when the right focus attention is not paid, things do go wrong. The last comment I have here is that it is easy to sit in a boardroom, meeting room, and create something and a process, but unless we go to the trenches, understand the pains, and really fix the processes from that point of view, I mean, we'll either end up optimizing the suboptimal processes, or we may not have paid sufficient attention and focus to re-engineering the processes by really working with the users and seeing what is going to help drive user adoption, not from being forced point of view, but because things are actually quite simple. So that effort of design thinking has to go into designing or as part of the modernization journey.
Very well, very valid point, Ritukota, and I think you highlighted few of the real challenges that come when we embark this journey. So thanks for that. Over to you, Jayan, at Servion, and overall with your experience, why you think SaaSification or software as a service or multi-cloud strategy is the way forward, and what are the benefits of SaaSification?
Hi, good evening to all. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share my experience and thoughts. I'm from an IT operation and security background. That's my responsibility here. For me, SaaS or SaaSification or the cloud, even before the pandemic, most of my business critical applications are on the cloud. Today, almost 95% of all applications are on the cloud. So it has helped us during the pandemic. The life was very easy. The operations, business, everything worked fine. Today, during the pandemic, what we have done is also we have moved our IT operations like before that, I would like to say that we are a completely Microsoft shop. So we use Microsoft products and service extensively. While we do that, we also do the best of the breed, like Amazon. For IBM, for AI and ML, we use IBM. We use Oracle. Most of the cloud, services we use actually for various needs, and for our customer and business needs also, we use various other clouds other than Microsoft. But especially during the pandemic, what we have done, we have moved all our IT operations also on the cloud. Like we moved, all our employees and system to Azure AD, and security tools and technologies, we moved completely to the SaaS model. So our goal is to reduce operation cost and improve the operation efficiency. So we thought the SaaS is the best way to do that. The benefit what I have seen in SaaS is from an operation side, retaining the SMEs or the talents. That is the biggest challenge what I had. So now today that is completely gone. We don't have to really, today I don't have an Exchange admin per se, or an Windows L3 admin. I don't have anybody like that. So because all things are in the SaaS, all I need is L1 or L2 engineers to manage the business operations. So in that way, the SaaS has helped our organization. We are into service, and we are mostly into running a SOC or NOC operation for our customers. So security and ITs are very critical for us. So we move all IT security tools. We moved that. The last one, what we have done is the SIEM. We adapted Microsoft Sentinel. That is the last implementation what we are doing. So that is what I have done, and I have benefited out of SaaS. So SaaS is helping us, and I think it is the way to move forward. Down the line, everyone will start adapting that. That's
Thank
my
you,
thought.
Jen. Thank you for sharing your experience. I think we have only 3 minutes left. So as a closing comment, over to you, Jagdish, if you would like to share how do we SaaSify our business? What is the right approach?
See, I think the first, I will continue from where I think most of us have highlighted a very clear picture of where your business goals are and where you want to go. And that's the first starting point. If you've done that, then you go look at what we call as a technology audit, right? A technology audit to me is a few things, not just one thing, but it's a few things that I think most of us, as I see, are from the IT or IT services industry or technology companies like Microsoft realize there are a few things that you need to do. You need to address, where is your digital infrastructure? What is the state of your digital infrastructure? Whether, before you decide, whether it should be a multi-cloud environment, whether you should probably have something on private, something on-prem, and something on public cloud. Those are later decisions unless you do this tech audit. And the tech audit should throw out to you what the status of your digital infrastructure is. What are you doing in terms of developing engineering capabilities in your company? Do you have it? Do you want to build it? Are they up to speed in terms of what the current technology demands are? If not, there are organizations and companies, and there can be two states. I've seen people who said, this is too core to us, we need to build it ourselves. And therefore, if it takes for us to be able to hire and build it, though it's against the business model of outsourcing companies like us, that's a choice that a customer has to make, and people have to make internally. Or you can choose players like us who come together and enable you to do it, because we are constantly keeping up to speed on that. Do you have a view of what the knowledge in terms of processes are? Have you consolidated that? Have you asked that question of where the knowledge in terms of your processes are? Because that's what you're changing. That's what you're going to modify in order to get to an outcome. And finally, what's your customer experience like? All of us have customers, and we are doing this, whether it's for our employees internally, for their experience to improve and their engagement to improve, and for our customers externally if you need to do. So to me, these four things, from auditing your infrastructure to your engineering capabilities, then to your experience that you're trying to deliver. If you get some of these things answered, I think you are on a journey towards SaaSification will be easier.
Very well structured approach, Jagdish. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry, we would have loved to come back to all of you for a few more questions, but I know most of us will have another meeting starting 4:30. So I will, probably for some other time, we will come back on a different panel. But thank you all of you for taking time. I think few very important points came up. The way Sachin started the session by bringing predictability to in an uncertain times is very important. Then few of you have spoken about reliability, security. How can we align more with business? Few of Rituparna talked about the challenges that we will finally see when we embark the journey. And then Jagdish summarized the discussion with a very structured approach towards IP SaaSification and app modernization. So thank you, very valuable insight. And I'm sure we have learned from each other's experience, and we will be looking forward to more such conversations along with you. Back to you, Fraser.
Thank you, Ms. Kariwala. That was indeed a very interesting session. With this, we bring today's virtual session to a close. Today's session wouldn't have been a success without the active participation of all our esteemed panelists. I would like to thank each one of you for taking your time out and being a part of this virtual boardroom session today. A special thanks to Microsoft for their support to this initiative, without whom this session would not have been possible. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. It was nice to be in your company this afternoon. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your time. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.